Hi everybody, this is MaDonna from Mad Bees Quilt and Sew, and we are on week number 8. Can you believe it that you've put up with me for 8 weeks now? So I am talking today about the block we did last week for a couple minutes and moving on to a flying geese block today. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, I'm MaDonna and it's Making It on Mondays, and we are working on a quilt out of the book from Alex Anderson's Start Quilting. And in this book, it goes through great instructions. These are done at an introductory skill level. So there are lots of other ways to do different blocks that are in this book, but this is the way and the method that we're following. I've changed none of the instructions because I want you to do it this way first time. I am planning on keeping up with doing some of these Monday videos after I'm done with this series, but for right now, I want to follow her instructions the best way that we can. So today's segment is about flying geese, and there are lots of different methods of doing them. But first, I want to talk to you for just a minute about last week's block. I thought I was on for a long time, and when I got done, Deanna said to me, wow, that was one of the shortest ones we've done. And I felt like I went for forever. So one of the things that I didn't talk about, and I want to just hit on for a second, is putting your blocks together, okay? So I've got my pieces laid out here on the table, and we are connecting a half square triangle to a solid square in the top row. And the best thing to try to remember is to always press the one that has no seams or the least amount of seams. So if I look at this, I've got a seam right across my triangle here, so I'm going to press to this outside one. On this block here, when I attach it, I'm going to press to that out. Well, the nice thing is that then both of those seams are going outward. When I do these here, it's going to put them inward, and the bottom row, the bottom row again is going to go out. When we go to nest them together, they're going to sit together much nicer for you. So go to the place where you have no seams. So that's going to be my block here, my polka dots. It's going to be my polka dots here. So both seams are going to go out. The next row they're going to go in, and the next row they're going to go out. Then when I put those rows together, they're going to lock into each other really well. So I hope that that helps you a little bit so that I finish that block for you with a little bit more clarity, okay? So again, I wanted to just go over that real quick before we get started. And as you can see, I didn't finish my block, okay? So I have 3 of these to get done because next week we move on to other things. Hard to believe.
Well, that's because you wanted to show them that.
I wanted to show them that. That's why I didn't finish, okay? So now we're going to move into flying geese. And if we refer to our quilt for this month, it is on, the instructions for this are on page 43, the flying geese. And we're going to make 2 blocks. It says 3 blocks. How many do we need? 3 blocks. We need 3 blocks, okay? And when we do these, we're going to refer to the instructions that are back on page 37. So in the book it says piecing and pressing, and it's actually going to give us the instructions of how they want us to do these. So we wind up with what we call dog ears on those, and I'm going to show you what that means, okay? So I'm going to grab out a set of my triangles. I'm going to make sure I have my 1/4 inch foot on my machine, and I'm also going to make sure that 1/4 inch on my machine, my stitch length, that my stitch length is at the right amount. So it needs to be at a 2.5 for doing this, okay? So this is the set of flying geese that I'm going to make first. And I have got 4 little corner triangles that go with this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll turn it around so you guys can see them looking like flying geese. Okay, and when I look at this, if I match up this bottom corner, you can see how I have a little bit of an overhang here. That's my dog ear, and I've got a little bit of an overhang here. So according to the instructions, we're going to match the bottom tip, and then we're going to sew. So we are making exactly like this down here. So we're going to be doing our first seams, then we're going to press, then we're going to make our second. And this little piece right up here on the top is the dog ear. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to take my first piece here and I'm going to attach it. So I'm gonna take it here, I'm gonna just flip this over right to that, and I'm gonna match the bottom triangle and leave the overhang on the top triangle. Okay, so a perfect match at the bottom and then an overhang at the top. I'm going to start with my tip all the way back in my machine. Okay, so I'm up underneath there. It's right up underneath of my feed dogs there. I'm gonna make sure I can see my 1/4 inch all the way, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to stitch that. Okay, I stitched right off the end. I'm gonna put my second piece under. I'm gonna take it and flip it right into place. Match up that bottom corner and stitch right along that edge there. Put this all the way up underneath there. So I stitched about 6 stitches in the mode where I was air sewing. I'm gonna put this one right up underneath there so my needle's right next to it. Right next to my fabric there. I'm gonna go ahead and sew. I'm gonna go ahead and trim that. Got my 2 pieces are connected right now. I wanna go in between there and snip that, and don't cut it right next to it, cut it right in the center of those 2. That way you've got that nice little bit of a twist left in between there. We're gonna head over to the ironing board, Deanna. Come on over. My iron is set at cotton. Remember, I always set my seam, so I'm gonna give it a press first, and then I'm going to open this up and press. I wind up with that little bit of my dog ear showing, which is perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna set my seam. I'm gonna open up, give it a press. No pulling on it, just press it. And again, I've got my little bit of a dog ear. Head back over to the sewing machine. I'm going to set these back into place again so I know where I'm going. I'm going to again match my bottom tips there. Flip this over and I'm going to stitch this side. Flip this over and I'm going to stitch this side. So it's a perfect match across the bottom, and I will have dog ears at the top. So when I'm sewing this, I'm going to be aiming for right where those cross right there. See right where that crosses? That's where I need to be aiming as I'm sewing. If I'm using my 1/4 inch mark, that's where it's should wind up at, but that's where I'm aiming for, is right there. Now, for me to sew this, I think it's easier for this one for me to sew it from the opposite direction, so that way I can feed it through this way. I don't want to feed it through on the other side of my 1/4 inch. So I'm going to turn it over, make sure everything stayed matched for me. My bottom edge is all matched up, my point's still matched, and I'm aiming for this little tail right there, that little bitty dog ear there. And that should be a 1/4 inch in. If you're brand new to quilting, you could even put a little point right there. You know, take your little marking pin and just put a little mark right there so that way you know where you're aiming to. I'm going to set this underneath. I'm right at my 1/4 inch, and I'm going to go ahead and go. Aiming straight for that little intersection right there, and I hit it. It's a good day. We're going to go ahead and put this one right up underneath there. One more time. So I live here in Arizona, and I am kind of bummed because this is the time of year where the rest of the country gets to change their clocks, and Arizona doesn't. And it's not so bad right now because we're springing forward, and you know, I love the sunshine, so I'd be really happy with this. The fall, though, is the one that you really have to appreciate because you fall backwards, you get that extra hour of sleep. I don't know, it just feels so much better than every other hour of sleep. It's like a free day, or it's like a snow day when you get to just play hooky. Extra sewing time. Okay, I'm gonna go press these real quick. Again, I'm setting the seam, and I'm gonna press open. Okay, I have got my 2 flying geese done. So now in the instructions, they're having us take one and put it on top of the other. So at this point in time, you can make the decision if you want to trim off your little bit of dog ears, but this measurement from that tip there to this outside edge here. So let me point with a pin. Maybe that, can you see that, Deanna? Okay, from here, that tip, to here should be 1/4 inch. Okay, if I sew that right at that 1/4 inch so that it hits, people think that's perfect. Yes, but you'll lose your point. So just remember that scant 1/4 inch, sew at a good scant 1/4 inch, and that way you'll actually be able to see your point. So it's gonna be just a thread or 2 threads or 3 threads, just a little bit short of that. So I'm gonna take and flip one of these right on top of the other, and I can see right where that cross is with my threads. See where that cross is? If I hit that cross, can we see it? Yeah. If I hit that cross, I'm gonna lose my point. So I wanna be this side, okay? Not into the red, I wanna be at the outside edge, just shy of hitting that point. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and sew. Line these 2 up together, matchy, 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 matchy. We should match just nicely. We'll see how good my sewing is. Matchy, matchy. Set this down and underneath there, and you just barely want to miss this. And I'll show you in just 1 second what I mean. So I'm coming up to it, and there's that little cross there. So when I come at it, I want to just be just on the outside of it. See how I hit right there? I don't know if you can actually see it or not, but I'm just barely on the outside of it. It's a beautiful day. Okay, let's take a peek. When I pop this open, yes. See how I left my tip? That's the goal. So it's not much that I'm on the outside. I mean, it's just barely, but if you catch that tip, you're gonna miss it. Okay, so that's my tip and trick of today. Be just a little bit off and you'll be perfect. Who didn't know that, huh? That we're a little bit off. Do we have any questions today?
I have a question.
Yes.
Will patterns tell you that, or is that just something that you learn?
No, that's just something that by practice, everybody wants to keep those perfect points. And we try to sew at a scant 1/4 inch, but if you sew and you hit that point, when you go to open it up, you've got too many layers of fabric there. And especially with all that already crossing there, it's just so thick that you're gonna lose that edge. So yes, it's just a good little tip to do. If it's something where it's got lots of points, because sometimes we'll have like a star that circles and you'll have 6 points in the center. Then you want to actually lengthen your stitch when you go across it so that that way if you don't hit it, you can unsew real quick and match it up better and then go back in and do it again. I sometimes will like baste it basically into place to make sure I've got it right, and then I'll go in and sew it. I've also been known to do this. If these were to be matching the same direction, so if we were to be putting the flying geese together this way, one going to the tip of this one so that they'd be going opposite of each other, I will actually start sewing right at it. and go, because as we move down the fabric, it wants to move a little bit. The fabric does. So I'll start sewing right where we're starting, and then that way I know that that's going to hit, and then I can go back and finish that other part of the seam. Okay? So I'm going to take this and press it. Again, remember that rule that I told you a couple minutes ago? We always want to press where we have the least amount of seams. So this is going to much nicer press, and you can almost see it already is telling you it wants to go that way. So go with it. The other thing you can do is press it open. You just have to be careful with the instructions, because sometimes we need that little bit of a lump in there to be able to match it to the next piece. So they'll nest better together if you've got a little bit more of a ridge. On this pattern though, I can see where it's being put together, where the two sets go together here, that it's matching on this very top part here and here. So that doesn't matter until we get into the actual blocks. So this here, that little unit is its own little unit. So it will be just fine the way it is. So that's what I have for today. Today is Monday. Tomorrow is Tuesday, which means it's comment sold. Wednesday is St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of us Irish. I will be sporting green, but it's Be a 10 meeting on Wednesday. And I'm actually going to be talking more about triangles. So it should be a trifectic day, or I don't know. Trying to come with something. Okay, yes. And then this Friday, I have a class called Go Big. If you want to come do a fun, fast class, that is Friday. And then we hit the weekend. And on the 20th and 21st, we'll be having an awesome sale, because this year, the 21st of each month, we've been doing something special. But if you've noticed, the 21st has fallen on a Sunday the past couple times. So that's how February and March roll. So we will be doing a fun sale, and it will be Saturday and Sunday. So keep your eyes and ears posted for our upcoming little tidbits. And otherwise, I will see you next week on Monday. You guys have a great weekend. Bye now.